Nothing in this podcast is intended as investment advice, and the people in this podcast may hold positions in the stocks they talk about. Do not buy any investment based solely on a tip or recommendation. Please do your own research.
Hello and welcome to the Midweek Takeaway. Today we're joined by Richard Horwood, COO of Electric Guitar. Welcome, Richard.
Thanks, Phil.
The company just announced the share-for-share acquisition of Mymyne Limited, a developer of data-related software solutions and sales and marketing services provider. This acquisition, which is part of Electric Guitar's buy and build strategy, is expected to bring significant synergies and cost savings by integrated Mymyne's software capabilities and sales resources in-house. The acquisition is subject to shareholder approval at a general meeting on the 27th of August 2024. Additionally, Electric Guitar will issue new ordinary shares as part of the acquisition and to certain professional advisors. Tell us more, Richard, please.
It is a very interesting acquisition for us because the business we're buying is just part of our buy and build strategy, which is what we talked about all the way along. And it's called Mymyne, and it brings us a couple of things. It brings us sales and marketing resources that Through Radical had outsourced before we bought it. And so bringing that in-house now enables us to use it more efficiently, and also saves us quite a lot of money because it becomes more efficient. So there's quite a lot of value that comes in with Mymyne. The thing that triggered it, by the way, is that we started bringing in-house the sales resources that Mymyne had anyway. And it got to the point where it made much more sense to sort of do that completely. And that's what we did.
So tell us a little bit more about what they were actually doing for Through Radical.
Okay, so Through Radical for the last year or so before we bought them had been retrenching and really had cut right back on their sales and marketing activities altogether. And so as we were going through the process of negotiating the deal to do the reverse takeover of Through Radical, they hired Mymyne to actually provide some extra sales and marketing resources, but it would only be on the basis that Mymyne got paid if and when and after we actually completed the reverse takeover. So Mymyne took quite a risk on putting in place business development, restructuring the website, monetizing and looking at how to productize better the Through Radical products. And that got paid for after we did the RTO. So we were paying for work that had been done before we bought the company, before we bought Through Radical. And we're also contracted, the contract was ongoing. So there was an ongoing contract. What they're doing is adding a lot of UK-based salespeople or sales resource, business development resource, media buying, expertise in crafting the website. You'll see we relaunched the website about a month ago for the product and so on. And so there's been a lot of work that's gone on in the last couple of months since we bought the business.
So the CEO that is now in place at Through Radical was the CEO of this company that you just purchased as well.
He wasn't CEO. He was a key employee of it, Jeremy Saul. And yes, we poached him really from Mymyne. And he was the one that came on board. And that's triggered the process really to do the entire deal.
Okay. And the connected party situation then in there, just explain a little bit more about that.
Okay. So that goes back in history. And I joined Electric Guitar about a year ago. So this is before my time as well. But Mymyne was set up before Electric Guitar was set up by our chief executive, John Regan. And when he then floated Electric Guitar as a SPAC, he pulled back from operations in Mymyne, which was then developing software, as well as providing sales and marketing support to other businesses. And ever since Electric Guitar was set up, all dealings with Mymyne have been conducted by independent directors, including myself, who have no interest whatever in Mymyne. And that's been the case all the way through. So John came off the board of Mymyne, and he's not been involved in any of the negotiations or discussions or arrangements between Electric Guitar and Mymyne since Electric Guitar was floated.
Can you just explain to people how that's happening, what price these shares being exchanged at? And I think there's three parts to this deal, isn't there, really, from what I could see?
Okay, so it's an all-paper deal. There's about £70,000 worth of shares that are being issued on completion. So it's not a huge price because that's more than covered. If you just look at the contract prices that we're paying out to Mymyne for the next couple of months, that's more than covers the consideration, the completion consideration. And then in a year's time, there are two conditional payments at about the same amount again in total. So it gets up to about £150,000 worth in total at today's share price. One of them is just on the basis of roughly half of it is conditional on Jeremy Saul, the the chap we recruited from Mymyne still being on our books in a year's time, which is fair enough. The other half is self-financing because it's a percentage of the revenues we get from using Mymyne's software. So insofar as we do that, provided we get value out of the software, then we'll pay them some more money, but up to a cap of another £80,000, I think, £100,000. But that's all self-financing.
Okay, so the software would be used then by whom?
Okay, so this is software that we would add to the offering that we do already with Voco, which is the product that 3 Radical already has. And it breaks down into sort of 3 parts. The bit that I've liked best is what's called situational targeting. Are you familiar with contextual targeting of advertising, which is where the ad is placed is related to the value of the ad? So is it placed against a football match or placed against something else? So the demographics of the viewer then understood. Situational targeting also takes account of how the viewer is actually receiving the ad. So it may be someone seeing it on his mobile. It may be someone on a laptop. It may be someone in the morning. It may be someone in the evening. It may be someone while having a cup of coffee. Whatever it is, you can pick up a lot of this information. And that's called situational targeting. And you can then target, a marketing officer can then target advertising specifically to someone who's in that situation. So it could be somebody that they already know is a middle-aged man looking to buy a BMW, who's been researching that sort of thing, but is also on his way to work. He's only got a quick amount of time. He's looking at this on his mobile. You can actually take all these factors into account and market to him according to those factors and change the way you market. That's situational targeting. And that's a bit of software that exists within Mymyne. And then we'll be looking to apply that for the benefit of our customers, but alongside Voco and anything else, all the other software that we'll be buying.
So the old saying that Big Brother is watching, he certainly is.
It's all anonymized data, okay? So the one thing that, just going back, the one thing that's driving Electric Guitar is the fact that third-party cookies, the things that stalk you without you knowing, they are going away, right? That what's happening is that all the chief marketing officers and all the big advertisers are looking at first-party data, the data they are getting transparently and honestly and in a trustworthy way with consent from the people visiting their websites or their apps or whatever other services they're offering. That's first-party data. And that's happening regardless of other factors because of privacy regulations. You know, they're getting stronger, as we all know. And that means that you have to anonymize this data unless people expressly give you consent to use it. It's also AI is having a big effect on this because people expect very personalized marketing now. So on the one hand, you've got consumers concerned about their privacy, but on the other hand, they want very personalized marketing. They're expecting it, they're used to it. And you can only do that if you have first-party data, real information about them, and that's collected every time they visit you so that you actually understand what they want, what's their behavior, so you can do much more targeted marketing. And one of the key things that Voco does is it can adjust that marketing in real time. The way you engage with your customers as a marketer can be adjusted in real time depending on how they respond to it. And that's a very, very important part of the Voco product.
Very good. It is really a fascinating scenario that more and more of these companies are going to have to get their own data and understand their own customers much better than they have done in the past. Otherwise, they're going to get left behind.
It's happening all the time. The reality is AI is a fantastic tool, but it's useless if you haven't got the right data. AI is just looking at the data and then interpreting that and helping you to navigate it very efficiently. But if you haven't got the information to help you target your marketing effectively, then it's useless in marketing terms. So all the marketing companies, whether it's agencies or their clients, they have to start collecting up and having access to and being able to manage the data about the people they're marketing to.
So what first attracted you to come to Electric Guitar and obviously the 3 Radical?
Yeah, well, I joined about, 18 months ago now, personally. And actually, I bought a stake and then I met with John. And the reason I did it was because I'd seen a podcast that John had done explaining that about this first-party data point. Now, I'd been involved in ad tech before some years ago. I had an ad tech business of my own, but I'd sort of not spotted this trend that really got cranking up from about 2020, 2021 of moving towards first-party data. And John expressed it so clearly. And I thought, well, that's a real opportunity. And the thing he was doing was he had created this quoted vehicle in Electric Guitar that was able to access the public markets to fund and resource and have a currency to buy the technology businesses out there that needed resources and commercial expertise, which is what we bring to the party. So I thought that was a good idea. I then met with John, and my background is an M&A guy. And given that through Radical and Electric Guitar in particular is a buy and build business, that's what I've been focusing on, the deals. And therefore, I did this Mymyne deal. John had nothing to do with the negotiations of that because he was a related party, so he was recused from it. But I'm also negotiating the other deals in our pipeline, about which I cannot speak at this stage because that would be inside information. But we do have a strong pipeline. And that's
But there are other deals that you are negotiating, and I presume the vast majority of those are going to be paper only.
Well, that's the point. That's the point. That's why we're a quoted company. So we have that currency to do these acquisitions. And of course, the people who take the paper believe in the mission. So they not only become part of a bigger group with expertise like the expertise we just in-house from Mymyne to do sales and marketing, to productize their products better and all that sort of stuff. But they also have the ability to work with the other businesses we buy, but also to access further resources.
What would you say to investors right now? Obviously, you came onto the market at 2.1p. You've just made a purchase at 0.73p, I think it was, which is obviously only sort of 30% of what you listed at, or 35% of what you listed at. Why has that happened, for one? And where do you see the future?
Yeah, I mean, the share price is obviously not where we want it to be. One of the things that you've got to bear in mind is that we announced that while we were still a SPAC on the standard list of the main market, we announced that we were buying and negotiating to buy through Radical in the summer of last year. And the rules on that market meant we had to suspend until we closed the deal. And we didn't close the deal until May this year for all sorts of reasons. But the result was that people got locked in. And we had a lot of shareholders who were locked in for a very long time. So as soon as we floated, it's not a surprise that some of them decided that they wanted to cash out, and that obviously pushed the price down. And given where we are in the market and given the state of the market, which I'm sure you know about just as much as I do, if not a great deal more, the state of the market is such that it's not an easy market to raise money. And what's happening was that people were just doing small deals, small trades, and that tended to move the share price. Obviously, what we're doing now is showing the activity, showing that we're delivering on what we said we would do as a buy and build strategy. This is our second acquisition. We announced an AI joint venture last week, which is very exciting as well. And John's already told you about that. And that's all we can do is deliver. And we're continuing to deliver. And we just hope people will see the potential.
Yep. Okay, that's great. I mean, is there any the other stuff in the RNS which is relating to the ongoing stuff that's been happening? We'll probably have a chat with John, I think.
I think it's a very good idea. Yeah.
Next week at some stage, just to progress that, because this was really just to say, what is this all about? Effectively, what we've done, I think, if I recap, is you brought a sales into 3 Radical, and ultimately you were already paying probably significantly more for that sales than you are actually to purchase it. So it seems a bit crazy not to purchase it, especially when you purchase it for paper, as you say, rather than cash. So it probably leaves 3 Radical / Electric Guitar in a much better position than it did before. Otherwise, why do it?
Absolutely correct. Very good summary. Yeah. I mean, the reality is that through Radical, it entered into this contract before we bought it. And so it was sensible for us to review it. And we found that we could get great synergies by bringing Mymyne in-house. And that's what we've done for, as you say, a pretty modest price, all in paper.
Yeah, and for a company that's probably worth less than £2 million right now on the market, I think you've got a lot to offer.
Thank you. I couldn't possibly comment.
Okay. Anyway, Richard, thank you very much for your time, and we look forward to speaking to you in the not too distant future.
Richard Horwood, COO of Electric Guitar, thanks very much for your time.
Very good. Love to meet you.
This podcast was brought to you by Roast PR Limited. If you would like to appear on a future episode of The Sunday Roast, please email admin@thesundayroast.net.